Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome, biggity, back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. As I said in my Shiranui video, I'm going to be releasing 4 videos today due to the missed videos that I missed due to the hurricane and just me being generally very swamped busy this week. So these are videos that I would have been giving you guys naturally over the week anyways, but that you guys are just receiving right now. So I'm sorry that you're receiving them all at one time, but maybe you just have a little marathon of my videos. You just go watch it. It's not all bad. At least you're getting the videos, you know what I'm saying? That's the important part. You're getting the content. So, we're going to be talking about the Victor deck today, which is from V-BT11. I don't know why I put V-BT10 here, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to try to see if I have a V-BT11 one. I don't. I just put V-BT10. That's weird. Anyways, we're talking about the V-BT11 Victor deck, and so this is a Nova Grappler deck that is coming out of the new set. Obviously a G clone of the old deck, so the old deck used to deal with Extreme Battler Victor. So this deck does do that. Like, it has like a lot of retrains, like Cool Hank and Room Ball, I believe, in this deck. So it basically deals with restanding one rearguard over and over again and getting different effects on your board based on how many times that rearguard restands. And so when that rearguard itself restands, there's one specific rearguard in this deck that you want to restand a bunch of times. It's a grade 2. And basically, when you want to always have that card when you're setting up your attack combo, because you use cards like Kick Typhoon and Cool Hank to be able to restand, and Victor to be able to restand multiple times. So as this rearguard is restanding, it's getting different abilities for every single time that it restands. So we're going to get right into the deck here today. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below and click that bell button so you don't have to miss any future Cardfight Empire content. Also, be sure to check out that join button next to the subscribe button if you're interested in becoming a channel member. There are tons of perks there for you guys to check out. So I'd be happy if you guys would go check those out if that interests you. Also, be sure to check out my social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and be sure to check out my second channel in the description down below as well, which is Let's Plays Animes, a channel that focuses on anime, animation, and video games. But with that being said, let's get right into the deck. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about Victor, and so I feel as though it's important to talk about the most important card in this deck first, which is actually Extreme Battler Doe Sledge. So, in my opinion, this whole deck centers around this one card, because this is the card that you want to be focused on restanding and attacking with. So, we will go over its effect later in this video, but I will say that this deck focuses all around Doe Sledge. So, let's talk about our grade 3s to start off with, as usual, which is Extreme Battler Victor. So Extreme Battler Victor has 2 Vanguard abilities. The first one is when it's placed on the Vanguard circle, you can look at the 7 cards, the top 7 cards from your deck, and then call up the 1 grade 2 or less card with Extreme Battler in its card name from among them to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. So you can check top 7, and in this deck you can get an Extreme Battler Doe Sledge, you can get an Extreme Battler Airshid, you can get Extreme Battler Gamba Rugen, and Extreme Battler Saucer. So you have a lot of Extreme Battler grade 2 or less targets in this build that you can grab. And just to show you guys how powerful this deck is, when I was playing the deck, every single time that I rode Extreme Battler Victor, I forgot that it had the first skill because the deck's just so powerful. I never did the first skill. So if you guys are actually performing the first skill, you're actually making this deck more powerful than what I portray it to be, which this deck is very strong if you have the pieces. And that's kind of always been Nova Grappler's way. If they have the pieces, they are very strong and very hard to contend with. But its second ability of Victor is when it attacks on the Vanguard circle, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 1, then choose up to 1 of your rearguards and restand it. And then if that rearguard has stood 2 or more times this turn by a card's ability, this unit gets +1 drive until the end of the turn, and it includes the stand from this ability. So if you use this card's ability and it is standing Doe Sledge, for example, if this is the second restand of Doe Sledge, then you will be getting triple drive, and I think that that's just amazing. Allows you to do a lot, and then also you run a lot of crits in this build because I like to attack with all my rearguards first and then attack with my Vanguard when there's 1 rearguard restanding. That way I can stack everything on Doe Sledge, and then also with Doe Sledge your opponent has it has guard restrict. So the more and more crits and triggers you stack on it, the harder it's going to be for your opponent to guard, because they have to guard with raw shield, no PGs, no great big 30k sentinel crits to block the attack. So we do only run 4 grade 3s in this deck. I slightly mentioned this when I was talking about Thavis in the Thavis video, but I feel like Bushiroad is anchoring towards us playing a lot more decks with just 4 grade 3s now, which is weird, but I didn't have an especially hard problem finding Victor. I will say it is harder finding Victor than in other decks that I've posted up that only run 4 grade 3s, because this deck doesn't have as many grade 3 searchers. However, the other cards that are in here, like the 2s and the 1s, are just so important that I wanted to run them instead of more grade 3s, because Victor is the only grade 3 that you ever want to be on anyways in this deck. So moving on to our grade 2s, we have 4 Cool Hank. So this card used to be a staple in the G format deck as well, just like it is in this deck, staple at 4. So it has a Vanguard ability that says when its attack hits, you can Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. So obviously an on-hit draw. Most of the time you'll get it because your opponent won't guard, especially if you have a booster. But sometimes you won't get it if your opponent no-passes your attack or something like that. But if they no-pass your attack, that means that they're giving you a decent amount of shield in exchange for you not drawing a card. So I would definitely take that trade-off every single time, because later in the game they're going to need more shield to block your bigger attacks, and they're not going to be able to do so because they were too worried about you drawing a card in the early game. Then what's on the rearguard circle, once per turn, when it attacks, you can discard a card from your hand and stand one of your other rearguards. So again, I will show you guys an ideal setup of how you want to set up your board when you're going for the attack, but this is just another way to restand Dose Ledge when you're attacking on your turn. Next up, we have 4 Brutal Jack. We mainly run Brutal Jack in case we don't have Dose Ledge, so it can become our new restand target, because Brutal Jack is 19k by itself. So during your turn on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. On the Rearguard Circle, it also cannot stand during the stand phase by itself, but it also has another Rearguard ability that says if you rest 2 Rearguards, you can stand this unit. So something that's cool about this card is that if you use Brutal Jack in combination with Unknown Adamski, you can still restand it and get your 1 attack that you would have gotten, even though it wouldn't be restanding at the beginning of the stand phase. So next up, we have 4 Kick Typhoon. So what Kick Typhoon does is Vanguard Rearguard Circle when placed. If this unit is on the Vanguard Circle or an additional Rearguard Circle, which basically means an Accel Circle, one of your units gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So I like to play this card on an Accel Circle just so that I can give Dose Ledge on the Rearguard plus 5k. It makes it even harder for my opponent to block Dose Ledge throughout the duration of the turn. Then on the Rearguard Circle, when it attacks, on the Rearguard Circle once per turn, if all of your front row rearguards have a rearguard on it, so if all of your Accel markers and your front row, your natural front row are full of rearguards, then you can counterblast 1 and restand one of your other rearguards. So this is very important to remember to fill up your front row no matter what if you have the Kick Typhoon on the board, so that you are able to use its ability. Otherwise, the ability will flop. And then last but not least, we're running for our grade 2s 4 Extreme Battler Dose Ledge. So let's talk about Dose Ledge's ability, which is on the Rearguard Circle, when it's stood by a card's ability, you perform the effects below depending on the number of times this unit has stood this turn. So if you stand it and it's the first time standing it, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. So it can become a 19k base on a regular Rearguard Circle, or a 24k base on an Accel 2 and a 29k base on an Accel 1. So very, very good. If you have restood it the second time during this turn, you get to Soul Charge 1, which directly refunds the cost for Victor's Soul Blast part of its ability. And then the third time it restands, it gets 10,000 more power, and then your opponent cannot call Sentinels to the Guardian Circle during the battle of this unit attack. And that's until the end of the turn. So every single time that you attack with Dose Ledge after the third battle, it has Guard Restrict, and it's big, and it's hard for your opponent to block. So like I said, you want to focus most of your strategy around that, but if you can't, then it's no big deal. So for example, I will play down these grade 3s here, and let's say that I get an Accel 2. So ideally, I would set up my front row to be something like this, just so that you guys can see that. So basically how the turn would go is it would go attack with Dose Ledge, that's attack 1. Attack with Kick Typhoon, I would counterblast 1 and restand Dose Ledge. So Dose Ledge would get plus 10k because it's the first time of its attacking. So we attack for 19 to something. Then we would attack with Cool Hank. Cool Hank would discard a card and restand Dose Ledge again, which would make us Soul Charge 1. and then we would attack with Dose Sledge again, and then attack with Victor, restanding Dose Sledge again, and then Victor would get triple drive, and then Dose Sledge, the next time it attacks, will have plus 10k more and guard restrict on Sentinels. So very, very important that you know how to set up your board and you know how to set up your attacking order into the turn as well. So next up, we have 4 Extreme Battler Arashid. So Arashid is basically just our top 5 for a grade 3, grade 1 that we've been getting in most of the sets and all the clans. So it has a Rearguard ability that says if your unit was stood by a card's ability this turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So a pretty easy condition to fulfill. And then it can be a 13k attacker or a booster. And then the second ability is when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard circle from your hand, then you can look at the top 5 cards from your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 card from among them, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then if you do, discard a card from your hand. So obviously this card is very, very essential and quintessential at 4 in this deck because you want to find your Extreme Battler Victor, preferably without G-assisting, but if you G-assist and you have to find it, this deck is still so powerful that if you G-assist and you find your Victor, it's fine. The only problem is that if you G-assist and you don't find your Victor, then you have to stay on grade 2 for a turn while your opponent rides another grade 3 or goes to grade 3, and that can be kind of bad for you depending on what deck you're against. Next up, we have 4 Extreme Battler Gamba Rugen. So what Gamba Rugen does is on the Rearguard circle once per turn, when it attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Victor in its card name, then you Soul Blast 1, restand one of your Rearguards, and this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So it becomes a 13k attacker by itself, which is really cool because by itself it can hit a Force Vanguard, but then it also becomes one of your restand options. So you have a lot of options like to find your restand combo. You have Cool Hank, you have Kick Typhoon, you have Victor, you have Gamba Rugen. So you just have all these restand, conditions to be able to meet your conditions for attacking a certain amount of times a turn. Then you also have 4 Unknown Adamski as well, which is another card that helps you restand and attack with those conditions. So Unknown Adamski's ability is when it's placed on the Rearguard circle, you may counterblast 1. If you do, stand one of your other Rearguards and attack your opponent's Vanguard with that unit. And at the end of the battle, if that attack did not hit, then you stand this unit. So something that to be noted here is you can use this ability even when your even when the unit that you would attack with is standing. So like let's say that it's the beginning of my turn and all my units are standing just like this. If I play an Unknown Adamski from my hand and I counterblast 1 and I select my Dose Sledge will attack into my opponent's Vanguard, and even if it does not hit, it will now restand because the attack did not hit, and then it will get plus 10,000 power because of its own ability. So then that sets you up for the rest of the turn, and it gives you the ability to be able to use its guard restrict twice instead of once in the turn because you'll be getting an extra attack. Also to be noted is that if your opponent guards this, so basically if your opponent's at 5 damage, Unknown Adamski becomes better as well, because it basically attacks into your opponent while you're at 5 damage, and then they have to guard it or they die, so they guard it and then your card restands, so that's very cool as well. Then last but not least, we have 1 Extreme Battler, So Saucer. So Saucer is actually our ideal Vanguard ride, but only when we find it. So when placed on Vanguard, we discard a card from our hand and draw a card. Can be useful when you generate a Quick Shield ticket, when you go second, and you discard that and draw a card. And then its Rearguard ability is when it stands, if this unit is on an additional Rearguard circle, you may have this unit get plus 10,000 power until the end of the turn. So just another alternative option to Dose Sledge and both Brutal Jack. You can place this card in the front row on an additional Accel circle, and then basically it will be 23k when it restands, and that's amazing. Then for our grade 0 lineup, we're running 1 Battle Riser, which is an old starter, because we did not get a new Victor starter for this set. We did get a new Blaukluger starter, but we're not using that for this deck because this is not Blaukluger. So we're running Battle Riser, considering that this is Kamui's deck, and Kamui's card is Extreme Battler Victor in the G series, so that's the logic for why you have to run this grade 0. It's big brain. And then when rode upon, just like every other starter in Standard, you draw a card, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 1 or greater, you put a Quick Shield ticket into your hand, obviously fueling your discard costs, such as Arashid and So Saucer. Next up for our triggers, we run 6 crit, 6 draw, and 6 heal. Just like Aquaforce runs 6 draw, you want to run 6 draw in Nova Grappler, in my opinion, because you want to be able to find your pieces. And if you can find your pieces, then this deck does enough aggression on its own where it doesn't need any help with aggression. Now, we do still run crits because we do need the shield value as well. But if we could check draw triggers and give a crit to our Rearguard from the draw trigger, we would probably just be running all draws, and that would be amazing. So we're running 2 Old Anchor, 2 Red Lightning, 2 Shining Lady, 4 Twin Blader, 1 Memory Bot Aldale, 1 3 minutes, and 4 Earnest Second. So you gotta run this 3 minutes and this Earnest Second because they have to do it time. And you know what you do at time? You waste it. You waste your opponent's time with his deck. Or you defeat your opponent in no time. See what I did there? But anyways, guys, we're going to be getting right into the games portion of the video. So we're going to be loading up Victor Game 1. As you guys can see, we're playing against Angel Feather in the first game. And this game, I already remember this game from, even though I played it a couple weeks ago. This game was sack as hell for the Angel Feather player. You guys will start to see that here. But we rode So Saucer, we discarded a card, we drew a card. Our opponent rode Multi-Medical Angel and then used the Malith Makuth Searcher. And so we block our opponent's Vanguard, we ride Cool Hank, and then we play Cool Hank, we go for top 5. We go for a top 5 again with Air Sheet, and this time we do find Victor. So we discard our heal because we want to hold these other cards in our hand. So we get a draw trigger, our opponent gets a heal trigger on defensive. We Soul Blast 1 and we draw a card, so we have a lot of triggers in our hand. Our opponent uses a Jaff Keel skill to deal himself a damage, and then he gets a crit on the dealt damage, so he gives crit to Vanguard. We block the rear guard for 12, and then we take the Vanguard, which already had a crit because he rescue checked, essentially, 1, but then he drive checks a crit, and so deals us the damage. And then we set up for our turn, which this is actually fine because we needed a counterblast. So we attack for 14 to our opponent's Vanguard. Our opponent double intercepts. Then we attack with Kick Typhoon, 14k to Vanguard. Dose Ledge restands and gets 10. We attack for 24. Our opponent blocks. Then we attack for 22, discarding a card. Dose Ledge restands. We Soul Charge. Then we attack for 24. Our opponent takes it again and gets another damage trigger on defense. So then we attack for 25 and restand Dose Ledge. Dose Ledge gets another plus 10. And then our opponent 2 passes us with 1 crit trigger. And we check no triggers, and I felt pretty bad about that. But I was like, oh, it's okay, you know, we'll probably get better checks in future games. Boy, was I wrong. So our opponent basically sets up his turn with Jaff Keel and Mal Makuth. And then he attacks us for 34. He checks a crit. And we take 2 damage and hit a damage trigger, but it's like it doesn't even matter, essentially. So we guard with Brutal Jack because we want our other rear guards, and then we PG the other rear guard. So we go for checking top 5 with Air Sheet, we whiff it, and then we attack for 9 into his rear guard, just getting rid of some of that shield. So we attack with 14 with Kick, restanding, get plus 10. He blocks that. We attack with Cool Hank, discarding a card, and then we attack for 19 again. And then we attack Vanguard for 25, and we are hoping to hit at least 1 crit here. And so now we have to hit 2 crits because he PG'd, and we still don't hit any triggers. So I was like, at that point, I was like, oh my god, you know, come on, this is unfair. So then our opponent rides into their Mal Makuth, does a rescue check, and hits a heal trigger. And at this point, we no guard because it's the only thing that we can do. His columns are way too big, and because of that, we lost. So normally, I would say that this deck is very strong, but it is not very strong against your opponent hitting a billion damage triggers, so just be aware of that. So for game 2, we're playing against Royal Paladin. Seems we're playing against some kind of variant mixed hybrid Royal Paladin build, or Royal Paladin good stuff build, basically. So we attack with Unknown Adamski, we get a draw trigger, drawing a card. And then our opponent rides Gallatin and calls Gallatin the rearguard circle and calls Allen. We block that, and then we take the 18k attack. And then we ride the Brutal Jack. We look at top 5. We do get another Victor. And we discard a card. And then we attack for 27 into his Vanguard. We do get another card that is able to restand on our rearguard. So now we have essentially a perfect setup because you want to have Dose Ledge and 2 restand rearguard abilities. So our opponent rides into Alfred early, uses the skill to counter boss 1, call a Blaster Blade from the hand, and draw a card, and it gets plus 10k. And then he plays Allen, attacking us for 18, which we take, and we get a heal trigger. Attacking us for 21, and our opponent does not drive check anything, and we get a crit trigger on defensive. So we are able to get a draw from the last attack as well, and get a draw. So we draw into Kick. We use Kick to give 5k to Dose Ledge, and then we call a Gambarugun. Playing Gambarugun on rearguard circle, so we attack for 14 into Vanguard. We use Kick skill to counterblast 1, restand Dose Ledge, it gets 10k. Then we attack with Dose Ledge for 24. Then we attack with Gambarugun with Dose Ledge, Soul Charge 1 for 21. Then we attack for 24 again. And then we attack our opponent's Vanguard with Victor, plus Dose Ledge ability. Dose Ledge gets plus 10k and no Sentinels. And we go for our triple drive, and we check a draw trigger, giving the power to Dose Ledge and drawing a card. So as you guys can see, we have a lot of cards in our hand and shield value, and our opponent wasn't getting to whatever objective he was trying to get to with playing this deck. But he attacks us for 21, and we 2-to-pass, which almost got us killed, but he just didn't all Vanguard. And then he attacks us for 28. We guard and intercept. And then he attacks us for 35, which we PG. So next up for turn, we ride into Extreme Battler Victor. And then we play down the cards. We check top 5 for our Air Sheet. We whiff it. And then we swing for 17 into our opponent's Vanguard. Our opponent intercepts. Then we swing for 18, restanding Dose Ledge. And he realizes that the 18 is equivalent to his 18, so he just goes ahead and takes it, and ends up dying because he does not hit a heal trigger. And then loading up Victor game 3. We're actually playing against, I believe, the same Royal Paladin player again. He wanted a rematch. This is a different Royal Paladin player, but we're playing against like Altmal Gantalot, something like that. So we're attacking with So Saucer. Our opponent hits a heal on defense. Rides into Liverot, uses Liverot's skill to search out a Blaster Rapier. And then attacks us for 10. We no guard. Our opponent hits a crit trigger. We hit a heal trigger and then another heal trigger, which makes us heal off the damage. We ride into Kick Typhoon, giving it plus 5. And then we play Air Sheet, checking top 5, and we don't get a grade 3. However, we already have our Victor. We have 2 Victors, in fact, so it's cool. We basically just need a attack target now, or a restand target that we would prefer to use. So then we take 2 damage. Our opponent uses Wingo Brave to check top 7, and does not get anything, I guess, because he puts back any shuffles. So we draw for turn, and then this is where this would have been useful for us to remember that we had Extreme Battler Victor's skill, because I actually held off a turn on attacking my opponent with full force, because I did not have an attack target. And as you guys can see, we would have gotten Dose Ledge off the top 7. So that would have been very, very useful. But our opponent rides into Arc Saber Dragon and plays Liverot, using Liverot to go into Blaster Arrow. And then he attacks us for 42. We no guard. He gets a draw trigger, giving the power to the rear guard and drawing a card. And then he gets a crit trigger, giving a crit to Vanguard and power to rear guard. We hit a draw trigger on defense and a crit trigger on defense. He uses Wingo Brave skill to check top 7. He gets a Blaster Dagger to his hand. And then he shuffles his deck. And then he can't attack us because he's only 30k to our 32. So we ride into another Extreme Battler Victor. This time we're ready to pop off. So we go for Dose Ledge. Kick gives Dose Ledge plus 5. We call for a Cool Hank column. And then we call for a Gambaroon column. So we attack for 19k to Vanguard. And I was basically hoping that my opponent didn't hit any damage triggers on these 2 damage that he's allowed to take. So we attack for 14 using Kick skill and Dose Ledge skill. So our opponent intercepts that. We attack for 24. Our opponent blocks or takes that. And now we're in the clear because our opponent has no more damage that he can take. So we attack for 17, restanding Dose Ledge. Then we attack for 24 to Vanguard. And then we use Gambarugun to Soul Blast 1. It gets plus 5k, so we're attacking for 21. Restand Dose Ledge. And basically I was trying to figure out why he was guarding or why he was taking back cards from his guard. And he basically got confused on our turn because he didn't understand that so many of the rear guards were restanding other units. So he guards Gavurumbang with a PG. Then we attack with Doe Sledge for 34. No Sentinel. And so as you guys can see, he put back the guard into the drop zone. And then we attack for 34. And when we attack him for 34 with no Sentinel, basically he drops a heal and a crit. So we go to attack for Victor, restanding Doe Sledge once again. And then he PGs this. And we proceed to check nothing off of our triple drive. And we attack for 34. And our opponent basically just cannot guard the 34k attack. Even if he could, we had 3 PGs in our hand. And some other good amount of shield as well. But with that being said, that has been the FutureFight video for V-BT11 Victor. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below letting me know your thoughts, and make sure to subscribe as always so you don't have to miss any wonderful Cardfight Empire content. Also, be sure to check out that join button next to the subscribe button below if you'd like to become a channel member and be a special part of the Empire family. And then also be sure to check out Let's Plays Animes down in the description below, my second channel having to do with anime, animation, and video games. But with that being said, this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on video 3 of 4 from today.